Hey everyone, yeah, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. This is the cartoon flashback. And here, on this return, we're going to talk about something that actually dates back 20 plus years ago. Actually 20 years ago, not 20 I should say, but nowadays dates back 40 years ago. Yeah, this year would mark 40 years since this debuted on ABC, and this year would mark, believe it or not, 32 years since it debuted on CBS. Now, I can't say whether or not NBC had something like this, but between those 30 to 40 years, both ABC and CBS had this as part of the weekend lineup, on basically the Saturday morning lineup. Usually these would be aired at the tail end of the Saturday morning block. In other words, between the 11 to noon hour. They would usually be aired for an hour, or, well, in some cases they would be aired at 11 o'clock, last for an hour because they'd be a 44-minute special, and some would air between 11:30 and noon, and basically that would be it. Sometimes they would be aired back to back, and, well, there you go. And of course I'm talking about ABC Weekend Special, the ABC Weekend Special, and CBS StoryBreak. Basically that's what this cartoon edition of the cartoon flashback is about. Talking about those unique programs. Now, what was funny about these programs is the difference, I should say, between these programs is ABC Weekend Specials. Actually, the ABC Weekend Special actually lasted 20 years. 20 years of being on ABC Saturday mornings, being the tail end of ABC Saturday mornings. But initially, according to Wikipedia, the ABC Weekend Special only lasted 17 years. Yeah, it only lasted 17 years, 17 seasons, before it ended up going into reruns for the last 3. Now, no one really knows why this happened, but for 17 years, you had original programming, live action, and animated that was associated with the ABC Weekend Special. And you had different animation studios when it came to the animated portion of ABC Weekend Special and CBS StoryBreak that would come in and animate for that program. Some of the animation studios were well known. Hanna-Barbera would come in, Warner Brothers would come in, Disney, I believe, did it a few times, Nelvana, well, not the band, but Nelvana, the animation group, Dick Entertainment, now Cookie Jar, now DHX Media, when they were Dick Entertainment, would come in. You had a bunch of animation studios, well-renowned and less renowned, coming in to animate or do animated adaptations of well-renowned storybooks, novels, junior novels, the kind you would find at the library. They would end up doing animated adaptations of these storybooks and junior novels and novels for the CBS Storybook or CBS StoryBreak and ABC Weekend Specials. They would end up doing it, and from what I understand, because of this, the ABC Weekend Specials, the ABC Weekend Special program, and the CBS Storybook show all ended up winning on their separate occasions. They would end up winning the Emmy Award for outstanding programming. Yeah, both ABC Weekend Special and CBS StoryBreak, or CBS Storybook, or CBS StoryBreak, whatever it was called, I have to look it up, ended up winning these achievement awards for outstanding programming from the Emmys. Like I said, they would end up winning outstanding end up becoming Emmy Award winners on several occasions during their run on Saturday mornings. But the question anybody would probably have is, why was these specials, or why was these programs on the tail end of Saturday mornings? Why didn't we see them in the middle? Why didn't we see them at the beginning? Well, let me ask you this. If you have a program where basically what is aired is a variety of live action and animation, and most of that live action or animation is based on a book that you've read, or that you could pick up at your school library or at your local public library and read, would you want to start off Saturday mornings with that, or would you want to end it with that? Would you want to stop in the middle of your Saturday morning block and have that, or would you want to be at the end? Because initially, when one thinks about it, these CBS StoryBreak and ABC Weekend Special were done for one reason. Well, not one reason, but done for several reasons. One of them, and probably the most important one, was to be educational. You see, they would always, at the end of either one of them, whether it was the ABC Weekend Special or CBS StoryBreak, they would always, in some way, shape, or form, tell you about books very similar to the story or to the book that was adapted into the live-action broadcast that you saw or the animated broadcast that you saw. They would recommend books similar to that, if not spin-off books or continuation books, so you can read up more on the further adventures of this character and their friends, or you could read up, or you can look into other books that had a similar tone to what you had seen on the weekend special CBS StoryBreak. Now, what's funny is for some reason, and maybe it's me, but for some reason, I remember on occasions, I don't know if it was CBS StoryBreak or the ABC Weekend Special, but I remember one of them actually showed a G.I. Joe episode. I don't know when this was. I think this was during the Dick Entertainment run of G.I. Joe. But I remember it somewhat being a drug-related episode, and I don't know how it happened, but I believe a deal or something was struck, either between CBS StoryBreak or ABC Weekend Specials, for this episode to be aired as a part of it. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I was seeing things, but I do remember something specifically to that matter. Now, what was funny about this as well is you didn't just get a lot of these other... Now, what's funny about this is sometimes you would end up, of course, getting reruns of the same book story that you had before. And you'd be like, well, wait a minute, I just saw this last year. Why is it being reran? The one thing about these weekends, the ABC Weekend Specials and the CBS StoryBreak specials or programmings, is it did cost money to try to get animated adaptations of books or live action adaptations of books made, especially if you were only going to show 30 minutes of it. Now, sometimes, from what I remember, and I'll have to look this up because maybe I'll be wrong and it's been a while, one thing I remember about the CBS StoryBreak and ABC Weekend Specials is sometimes, even though they ran for a half hour, they would actually go and give you a mini-series. Well, even though it would be 2 parts, they'd give you a 2-part mini-series to where you would have to tune in the next week and see what happens. The one thing, though, that was kind of different between both programmings is ABC Weekend Special had a mascot called OG Remore. He was an anthropomorphic cat who had some friends. Of course, I can't think of the name of the friends, but OG Remore was the mascot for ABC Weekend Specials. And sometimes they would actually incorporate OG Remore into the stories. They would do that. They would incorporate him into the stories. Now, at first, I don't know if he was animated at first or not, but if you look here on YouTube, there are clips of a puppeteered version, or a puppet version, of O.J. Reedmore. Now, I don't know if this was done before he was before they decided to animate him, or afterwards. I believe it might have been afterwards. I'm not really sure. I mean, not after, but I believe it might have been before. Because you see him with different celebrities, like Vincent Price, for example. But getting back on topic, O.G. Reedmore would actually be put into the stories that he'd be reading. Basically, the way an ABC Weekend special episode with him would start is he would actually be doing a reading club. The way it would start is you would actually have a reading club as the primary synopsis. Basically, you would have O.J. Reedmore meeting up with his friends to select what story they would read to each other that night. And O.G. Reedmore, for some odd reason, would become involved in it. And I think his friends became involved in it as well, as far as I remember. But you would have certain ABC Weekend specials with O.J. Reedmore as the star of the show, or the star of the story, where it would be called O.J. Reedmore meets Dr. Jekyll and meets Mr. Hyde. O.J. Reedmore meets Little Red Riding Hood and such. I think there might have been a couple of them, maybe several, I think maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember how many, that they had with O.J. Reedmore. But they did it specifically, in my opinion, because they wanted to at least give some kind of star appeal, give some kind of identity to the weekend special. Now, CBS StoryBreak didn't do this, but they would still give us some animated programming with stories. At times, I will admit, both programs would kind of be divided down the middle. For a majority of weeks, almost a month, you would get animated programming, animated adaptations of books. Some other times, for about a month, you'd get live action adaptations. They would go back and forth. And sometimes you get 1 week you get animated programming and the next you get live action. The reason for this is to give you a variety and kind of give you a break from a certain genre or a certain style. If you had a month or so of animated adaptations, you would end up getting a live action month. And then after that, you'd kind of go back and forth. One thing I can recall about these weekend specials from CBS and ABC, like I said earlier, is sometimes they would actually take an established property and put it on there because I think they didn't have anything else to air, or they were still waiting for the next original programming or next original special to be finished, to be fully animated and ready, or finished filming for its live action viewing, or finished filming if it was a live action adaptation. Now that was great. Now that was great and all, that's understandable. You have to wait. So how do you fill the void? Sometimes, and I don't know if these are listed, but sometimes they would take, like I said, established franchises and put them in as specials. Like I said, I don't know if it was me, but they put a G.I. Joe one, and I believe on CBS StoryBreak. I think they did the same with the original MLP. MLP-G1, I believe, had 1 or 2 of their primetime specials aired as weekend specials for ABC. I believe that may have happened. I'm not really sure. I have to look it up again. And these are the 2 specials I think that came on before the original 1986 movie debuted. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe I am. But the weekend specials of CBS and ABC would do that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, you don't see these kind of programs anymore. You can get them through iOffer or eBay, where people would are selling their recorded copies of every weekend special off ABC or every story break from CBS. They would and are selling them on DVD. And these are the recorded versions, not official. These are recorded. So they would sell them. because you probably can't get them anywhere else. Or you can't get them anywhere else, or you can't get them, anywhere, period. It's the only option you got. It's the only option you got. But yeah, you don't see that. You don't see these kind of things anymore today. The one thing about now, the other big difference between CBS StoryBreak and ABC Weekend Special was CBS StoryBreak originally aired from 85 to 87. Then, for some reason, it disappeared. It took a hiatus for about 6 years. And then in 1993, it made a comeback. The reason being, I think, is because the original host, something happened with the original host, I don't know. So when they made a comeback, they had Malcolm Jamal Warner as the new host. And that lasted for about 4 years. So in a sense, when you take away the 6 year hiatus, you're looking essentially at, I say, 6 year run. So minus 6 years and it only equaling out to 6 years period. Because 85 to 87, you had about 2 years. 93 to 97, you had 4. So you missed 6, you end up getting 6. Whatever. But yeah, they took a break for a while. They brought in Malcolm Jamal Warner as the new host of the show. And they just continued on like nothing changed except for the host. ABC, on the other hand, they lasted, like I said, for about 20 years. 20 years on air, 17 seasons. But big difference, I should say, is 17 seasons. So in 1977 to 1994 seasonal-wise, 1977 to 1997 on air-wise. So yeah, seasonal-wise, it only went from 77 to 94. On air, it went from 77 to 97. But what's funny about this is even though CBS kept their StoryBreak intro the same even after its hiatus, with a few differences maybe here and there, ABC had not one, not two, but 4 different openings, I believe. 4 different, not 4, but 3 or 4 different openings from what I've read. They had perhaps, and I'll give you an example of something. You think The Simpsons have the same intro every year, or every season, right? They make a few changes here and there to make it different and unique. ABC Weekend Special had the same intro for 20, was it 20 years? No, they had the same intro. Hold on for a sec. Let me check this. Let me look up on this. Yeah, they had one of the longest running intros. I mean, again, you think The Simpsons change up things and everything, and their intro is still similar, but, they change things up. ABC Weekend Special had what was known as, it looks like 3 different intros. One of them, the original intro was known as the Pop-Up Book, which started on January 29th, 1977, and lasted to August 1990. Yeah. According to Wikipedia, this was the longest running umbrella sequence in the show's broadcast history. Yeah, and this opening, like I said, this original opening, the Pop-Up Book opening, lasted for 13 years. Never changed. Never changed. So basically, you were looking at the same 70s inspired intro, or 70, well, it was the 70s when it happened, but 70s styled intro up until the beginning of the new decade until for almost 2 decades. Actually a decade and a half, because you had all of 1980s you dealt with it up until the 1990s. So almost a decade and a half of the same intro. Nothing changed even in the 80s. It wouldn't be until about August 1990 when we would get a new intro, or actually September 1990 when we would get a new intro called Reading is Magic. And then that would last only 4 years, from September 1990 to September 1994. And then we would get a new one called Adventures in Reading, which lasted from September 94 to August 1997. So yeah, the one thing ABC Weekend Special can really take credit for is the fact that for 13 years they had the same intro. Nothing changed. I mean, think about this. You're born in Think about this. Think about this. You're a parent, probably a grandparent now, and you have a child. Maybe a child that was born around 1977, maybe 1974, something like that. Maybe 1972, and Zara Nicerek, if you're listening, you probably know what I'm saying. You have a child, and they're growing up in the 70s, and then they see this premiere in 1977, and they're about, let's say, 4 or 5 years old. Could you imagine their reaction? Their reaction that almost 13 years later, here they are getting out of high school or something like that, getting ready to start their lives, and they're still seeing the same intro from when they were kids? That's crazy. And I know it's not uncommon, but still, it's crazy. But the point is, like I said, you can say that The Simpsons have the same kind of intro, and they've had it for almost 30 years. Yeah, it's almost been 30 years for them. It's almost been 30 years for them. You could say they've had the same intro with a few slight changes, the same intro for almost 30 years. But the thing is with The Simpsons, even though that they've had the same intro, they've altered it at times to make it feel more different and unique. For 13 years, the ABC Weekend Special did none of that. It did none of that. Now, you're probably wondering how many episodes altogether was aired for both programming. Well, if we look at this, starting what was known as the short story specials, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then going into its original season, 5, 6, 7, 8, you had 18, 29, 41, 49, 55, 64, 73, 81, 90, 99, 103, 108, 111, 114, 116, 125, and then in its final season, 129. Yeah, 129 episodes. That's amazing. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, Brian. I thought it only lasted 20 years. I thought you said it was only 17 seasons. It did. It was 17 seasons, but here's the unique thing about this. Here's the uniqueness about this, okay? They would spread these episodes out sporadically. Sporadically, you would get new episodes. Sporadically, you would get all new episodes. That's the truth. You know what's funny? Remember how I said franchises would be put on there? How about McGee and Me? Twice. How about The Littles? Here Come the Littles. The movie was actually put on there. How about the 3-parter Liberty and the Littles? How about Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin? This could go on. And that's ABC Weekend Special. As far as CBS, like I said, CBS StoryBreak, like I said, it took a hiatus for 6 years. It had 23 episodes. Let's see what those were. We had, only says 16, but it says 23 episodes. Go figure. But the episodes, according to Wikipedia, were produced by Australia's Southern Star Entertainment and America's Hanna-Barbera Productions for CBS Entertainment. Among the stories they would have, or adapted, would be How to Eat Fried Worms, Dragon's Blood, and Rathar's Creature. Go figure. It only shows the episodes for the 85 to 87 season. Doesn't show anything else. I think these might have been the only ones. But basically it shows you, it it shows you exactly, even though CBS StoryBreak was probably just as successful award-wise as ABC Weekend Special, it didn't last as long. I think maybe the reason is because a lot of people saw the similarities. The only difference was you could tell, just by looking at Wikipedia here, the only difference was Southern Star Entertainment and Hanna-Barbera Productions are animation companies. So basically by having the animation be a major portion, it's not a surprise maybe why ABC lasted as long, because it had a variety. But I do remember waking up and watching these. And I do remember G.I. Joe somehow being on there one time, part of CBS StoryBreak. But yeah, what can I say about these two things? They were part of our childhood. It was part of our childhood if you grew up in the 70s, part of our childhood if you grew up in the 80s, and yes, even part of our childhood if you grew up in the 90s. But here's the question. Here's a question I've got for you. I want to pose you guys with a question. If ABC and CBS were to bring these back, should they continue the tradition of adapting well-renowned books, children's books, adolescent books, into animated stories and live-action stories? Do you think they should continue that tradition? Take a book that you don't think is going to get a live-action or animated adaptation and bring it to the big screen? Or bring it to the small screen? Do you think they should do that? Now, I know you're going to ask, well, what do you think? I think they should. I think they should consider bringing these back. But I think they should do it in a way to where they kind of mix it up a little bit. You keep that tradition you started originally, where you basically introduce all new live action and animated adaptations of beloved storybooks and novels. But at the same time, while you're doing that, like I said, you mix it up. And with today's day and age of cable and streaming, there's a lot of selective programming out there that you could bring to over-the-air broadcasting and give people a glimpse of what there is to offer. A good example, in my opinion, is My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. I think, in all honesty, if they were to bring back CBS StoryBreak or ABC Weekend Special, you could take something like My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, perhaps take the first episode, the very first 2 episodes, and you can use that to kind of introduce people to the Friendship is Magic world on over-the-air broadcasting through one of these programmings. You could. Because I can tell you this. When you look at how the episodes were sporadically spread out for ABC Weekend Special, I could tell you honestly, those were at times that either you had football you had college football on, or most time those weekend specials would consist of episodes of already established franchises, and people in ABC or CBS wanted to give people a taste of what these were. They wanted to give a wider audience, a more national-based audience, a taste of what they were. And again, like I said, if they were to bring these back, this would be a good direction to go in. You mix it up. You keep that tradition. You go out and you get people to create all new animated and live action adaptations of beloved novels and books and storybooks for kids and adolescents. And you mix it up at the same time by introducing, because maybe not a lot of people maybe not a lot of people can afford streaming services or cable or whatever. You basically use this new idea, or you mix it up a little bit, and at the same time, like I say, you bring in all these other animation studios and live action productions to create these adaptations of beloved novels for kids and adolescents. At the same time, you mix it up and you say, hey, you basically say, hey, we're also going to give you a taste of what Discovery Family has to offer, and since it's a big deal, we'll let you see the first 2 episodes of the first ever story arc for My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Or if during Christmas, because they did a variety of original animated and live action Christmas programming, You say My Little Pony does Christmas, but they call it Hearthwarming Eve. Let's bring that into the equation. And there you go. It's over the air, it's on broadcast television, and people would like it. People would get a kick out of it because you're introducing it to a more wider, broader audience. The same can be said for, let's say, what else is out there? What other programming is out there? The same could be said for, let's say, Mickey Mouse. You got these Mickey Mouse shorts that you did, these old new ones in the past. Why not use it to bring in the Mickey Mouse holiday specials? Kind of mix it around with that. You bring in the new style you brought in for the Mickey Mouse shorts that you did. And then you say, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's bring in some Mickey Mouse stories. And there you go. People would get a kick out of it. People would enjoy it. You can even bring some original holiday specials from the past in there that's never seen over-the-air broadcasting. Like Sonic Christmas Blast. There you go. Perfect. Or if you want to continue that tradition, or if you want to do something that they did before, and that's take a full-length animated feature and split it up into parts, you can do that too. Here come the Littles. Here come the Littles with a theatrical film that got split up into 3 parts on ABC Weekend Special. And the reason why is because they were testing the waters previously with Liberty and the Littles. So who's to say, let's say when the My Little Pony movie is out of the theaters, it's already on home video and stuff. Who's to say, something like ABC Weekend Special or CBS StoryBreak wouldn't do that. Wouldn't say, you know what? Let's take this movie and split it up into 5 parts for the next month, and span it across the next month in 5 parts as part of our weekend special. Who's to say they wouldn't do that? Because they would. The point is, in my opinion, because I know you guys want my answer too. My thing is, I believe if they were to bring these programs back, they can mix it up. They can mix it up to where you still keep that tradition of adapting well-renowned or popular novels, junior novels for kids and adolescents into animated and live-action programming, as well as at the same time you mix it up by introducing that wider, broader audience that only watches over-the-air television or only can afford over-the-air television. And yes, that is true. A lot of people are in that predicament. And introduce them to programming, to shows and stuff that they can only see on cable or streaming services. And I guarantee that if you did that, if that was to happen, you get more attention on not just those products, not just those franchises and shows, but you get more attention on your revamped and rebooted weekend special and your ABC Weekend Special and CBS StoryBreak, and you'd have people clamoring for more. That's what you would have. So, in closing, CBS StoryBreak and ABC Weekend Special, I don't think I can say any more than what I have. I just think, when I look back at them, they're always going to be a part of my childhood. I remember some classic animated and live-action programming, and I just wish ABC and CBS would bring them back for today's generation, because I think they could work. And like I said, if they do it the way I would suggest they do it, they would have basically money on their hands. They would have a successful bankroll on their hands if they did that. So that's really all I could say on this on this edition of the Cartoon Flashback. You guys let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like. I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts in remembrance of these shows? Let me know down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.